The transfer portal additions will play starring roles for Vanderbilt in 2025. Is the rest of the league on alert? Locked on Vandy starts now.
You are Locked on Vandy, your daily podcast on the Vanderbilt Commodores, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yo, welcome into the Locked on Vandy podcast on the Locked on Podcast Network. This is the show. I'm your host, Corey Burton. Thanks for making us part of your day. Thanks for making us your first listen, and shout out to the everydayers. We got an action-packed show, like I said, but we're free and available wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube as a part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day. Now, this show is going to be action-packed because I was on the Herb and Raj podcast earlier this week. I feel very bullish on Vanderbilt. I feel like they're going to have a really good season. And a lot of that is because they did extremely well in the transfer portal, and a lot of key positions, a lot of key goals were met with excellent transfer portal talent. Now, those key positions are like the offensive line, getting edge rushers, secondary people, the entire wide receiver core. Like there's something that's going to happen. There's a lot of things that are going to happen. And those guys, I feel like, are going to come up in a lot of key moments. And those key moments are going to lead to upsets like on the road at South Carolina, on the road at Alabama. Like those type of things, these transfer portal guys will come in big time handy. So who are the impact guys? What were the first goals? Well, the first goal was to build in the trenches. Okay. You had to rebuild your offensive line. You lost a lot. You didn't have much depth to begin with. But I think the key portal additions here for this team started on offense up front. All right. Your offensive linemen, 4 of your 5 starters are transfer portal guys. Now, normally that's pretty concerning. Normally you would worry about, okay, these guys are starting together for the first time. There's some continuity issues, things like that. But to be honest, this is probably one of the most talented offensive lines Vanderbilt's had in quite some time. Maybe collectively ever. I think 3 of these guys are NFL guys. Maybe Sterling Porsche is an NFL guy as well. But, I mean, this group is led by the guy that's in the picture there, Jordan White. He's the center. He is by far the best center that Vanderbilt's probably ever had. I think he's going to be, because centers don't get picked in the first round for whatever reason, he's going to be, as soon as they start picking centers, Jordan White will be in the mix, I believe. And he's a true, and I think he's a bona fide NFL guy. I really do. I think he's got the communication. He understands protections. He understands defensive fronts. He can make calls. He can make adjustments at the point of attack, and he's athletic too. Right? Last year you had Castillo at center, huge. He was too big and slow to play guard, even the strong guard. So you move him to center and just have him block back on a one technique, try to just clog up, the gaps for the linebackers and try to create something. I think oftentimes it just wasn't quite the right fit. I think you've got a really good fit now. And I think with Jordan White, he's athletic enough. If you want to pull him in some of these schemes, you can pull him. On like a pin and pull scheme, or like maybe some sort of adjustment to a front that defense may give that would cause a center to pull. Any situation that causes him to get out and run, he's going to be good at it. A combo up to a linebacker on the second level, he's going to be good at that. Reaching a 3 technique, blocking back on a 3 technique. Like I think all of these things that you get with athletic linemen. Isaiah Glass, I think, is going to be a guard at the next level, but I think he's that tweener guy that could play tackle or play guard. Probably a little too short to play tackle in the NFL, but he's going to play quick tackle for Vanderbilt, and he's going to be plenty athletic enough to cover up defensive linemen, things like that. And I never thought I'd say 6'4" is probably too short, but it is in the NFL. Bryce Henderson, not necessarily right tackle, but strong tackle, probably projects to be a right tackle in the NFL. Very devastating run blocker. He can lock you up, bury you. He has good technique, things like that. His coach came over with him, Coach Nady, and I think he's going to be an impact freshman. And then, of course, Sterling Porche joined in the summer, didn't get the benefit of the spring reps, but a very talented quick guard, very athletic, can pull, can get to the second level, can do things athletically and with pass protection that I think will benefit what Vanderbilt's trying to do. And then, of course, the incumbent starter, Chase Mitchell, at the other guard position, I think is athletic enough to be dangerous, but is powerful enough to be what you want as a strong guard, blocking down, doubling a down lineman or comboing a down lineman up to a linebacker, things like that. But this offensive line being rebuilt, I think that's going to make a huge impact because, to be honest, if teams are going to, and the excuse of, well, they got the book on Diego Pavia, they're going to be able to, he's not going to do this, defenses know now, right? But okay, you can know all you want. Diego Pavia knows what you want to do to attack him. Coach Beck knows what you want to do to attack him. I think he's finally got the offensive line to do something about that. And he's got the depth on the offensive line to do something about that. If you want to hear me break down the depth of that group, there's an earlier episode where I do break that down. As the episode where I talk about Primus committing. I do talk about the depth of the offensive line coming into that. So I'm not going to get too far into that, but just know that I think having this veteran, even though they haven't played together, they're a very veteran group. And this will allow Coach Beck to really open up things offensively and really be able to do some things down the field, because I think they're going to be better at pass protection. They're going to be better at opening run lanes. They're going to be more athletic, in better shape, stronger, all of that. And they have the depth to replace and give those guys a break if needed. So I think all those advantages point to the offensive line, and they did a great job recruiting in the portal to make up for the fact they didn't sign an offensive lineman in their high school class. I think they had one on the hook, and he dropped right before signing day. So that's going to be outstanding, and that's going to be a huge impact on that. So that, again, you just can't stress the importance of having a good offensive line, and it's very, very important. So I'm very, very excited about that, about the state of that position. I think there's a lot of great things there. I think an honorable mention for this, and I think a beneficiary of this offensive line is going to be, I think, getting AJ Newberry back. That's good. He's not a transfer, but I think getting him back in the fold is going to be really good. Because I think there's a lot of things he can do in the passing game. And I think for the tight ends, Bryson Coleman's a newcomer. And I think you're going to be able to get him more involved as well. I don't think you're going to necessarily have to have max protect at all times, so the backs and the tight ends can get more involved in the passing game. So Cole Spence, Bryson Coleman, those guys are going to be probably in more than they're not. Are going to be beneficiaries of that. Eli Stowers is a weapon in and of itself, and we talked about that. But AJ Newberry, I think I'm going to consider him a newcomer because his impact last year wasn't great because he got injured and he missed a lot of the year. And I think he's going to, he wants to make up that ground, and he wants to be able to make that true impact that he intended on making last season. And I think he's kind of a utility running back, a guy that's going to come in certain situations, passing situations, situations where you need to get the edge and get to the outside. But again, I think they do have the luxury, and I'll talk about a guy that I really like coming into this offense later on down the road. But I think they have the luxury of not having to rush him back, because I think they've got some freshmen that are coming in. Also with MK Young, who I'll talk about later. I think AJ Newberry can take his time making sure he's got his feet and legs up under him, and before they really turn him loose. So I'm excited about that. I'm excited about this offensive line because you're going to see a very different group. You're going to see a group that is veteran, and what that means when I say veteran is they know how to communicate. They know the importance of technique, and they're going to absolutely take pride in what they do. Not saying last year's group didn't, but I just think there was a lot less experience on last year's group. I think you had pockets of really good play, and I think you had pockets of really just lackluster, just not up to par play. And I think that roller coaster led to what seemed like a roller coaster ride for Vanderbilt's offense. They were up either really far up or they were plummeting, and there was not a whole lot of in between. There was not a whole lot of they were just solid, right? It was either really good or really bad. And I think you're going to see a little bit more even of a group. I think you're probably going to see less of the spectacular peaks, but with spectacular peaks, oftentimes you get spectacular valleys too. And so I don't think you're going to see either of those, and that's okay. And when you talk about an offensive line, it's kind of what you want, because the other guys will make them right. The other guys will make their consistency explosive. It'll make their consistency really stand out, because you won't really notice. Like when an offensive line's on point, you don't really notice them. And you don't really notice individual guys. You just notice, hey, this unit is doing their freaking job. We're scoring points, and Diego Pavia's uniform is relatively clean outside of the times when he actually ran it by design. As far as pass pro goes, his uniform would be theoretically dry and clean. So this group is gonna stand out by not standing out, if that makes any sense whatsoever. So anyway, talking about the rest of the offense, the wide receiving core was something that needs to be addressed. It was a weak point last year. I think it's going to be a strength. I think it's going to be more explosive. And when you have teams like Alabama and South Carolina, they're really gonna hone in on your run game. I'll tell you how these wide receivers are going to make that difficult next. Speaking of difficult, FanDuel. It's difficult to bet on baseball. I'm learning that. But summer sports are in full swing, and whether you're all about baseball, golf, or high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. You're already following the action. Why not make it a little more thrilling? With FanDuel, you can get in on the game while your friends are getting sunburned at the beach. How about that, dude? You're making dollars while they're spending dollars on aloe, right? So I've been using FanDuel to track my favorite matchups, and the app just keeps it fresh with new daily promotions and fun ways to bet. Sometimes I like to throw small bets at those pre-made parlays, and those pre-made parlays can sometimes be hit or miss, but they're fun to play because when you hit one, it's really, really good. So it's easy to use, fast to pay out, and makes even regular season games feel like must-watch events. Whether I'm placing same-game parlay or watching a bet ride into the ninth inning, FanDuel makes me feel like I'm part of the action. And that's the part that fires me up about it. It gets me invested. So, you new to FanDuel? Well, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started. Thanks for making Locked On Vandy your first listen each and every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube as a part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Shout out to you everydayers. Thanks for making this part of your day. Thanks for however you got here, whether you're listening on the audio side or watching on the YouTube channel. Thanks for stopping by. Thanks for leaving the comments, the constructive ones, not the personal attacks. Those suck. You guys can kick rocks on that. But I like all the feedback. I like all the trash talk that you opposing fans give me. It's pretty funny. The creative ones are the ones I like to read the most. If you're creative, I appreciate it. So Locked On SEC, if you need a second listen. And of course, the other 15 channels in this network are outstanding. So you should go check those out. And shout out to Stephen Willis. Locked On Ole Miss just eclipsed 15,000 subscribers. Maybe we can catch him. Challenge to y'all. Maybe we can catch him. Okay. All right. So talking about transfer portal guys, talking about, playing starring roles in key positions. Listen, your two biggest games of the year are South Carolina and Alabama. Okay. Let's be real about that. And I don't know if I mentioned that by name in the first segment, but let's be real about it. Those are your two biggest games, right? And yes, the answer is yes. I got you on upset watch. Why? Because you got experienced guys playing key roles. You're not relying on freshmen to replace key starters. You're getting experience. So it's not like you're getting a brand new starter. You're getting a guy that just is a little bit more seasoned. And the only thing he hasn't started for is Vanderbilt. He may have started in his previous situation, like some of the guys we're going to talk about later on. But if you're going to beat the likes of Lenore Sellers in South Carolina or Ty Simpson, Ryan Williams in Alabama. If you're gonna snatch the sledgehammer away from Alabama, you're gonna have to. I think these guys are going to come up in big time roles, and the more and I wanted to really connect that with this position group, because I think for this position group, it's going to be even more vital. Like the offensive line, everything goes through the offensive line. It's the most important position, or the most important position unit, I should say. In terms of making this offense go, it's not really, and an offensive line is going to be good. I'm really excited about that group. Go back to rewind to the first segment. You can, if you forgot why I said the offensive line is really good. But I think after all of that, they make a great block. You protect Pavia. Pavia throws down the field. Then what? Who's going to be on the other end of those passes? That's the key ingredient. Eli Stowers, but it can't be Eli all the time. I wish it were. I wish it could be, but it can't, because teams are going to be like, "Oh, we'll just stop number 9," and they're going to But in order for the argument of, well, in order for this to be wrong, well, they figured out Diego Pavia, so he's not going to be able to do anything this year because the defensive coaches got the books on him now. They know how to attack him, right? That's such a lazy argument, by the way. And I mentioned something on X about that. It's such a lazy argument. I hate that, because it just assumes that Pavia and Tim Beck and those guys aren't doing anything to improve, right? It's okay. It's just assuming that they're going to be like, okay, well, we won 7 games, so we're just going to roll out the same plan and hope it goes well. It's like, dude, like, I get it. And defensive coordinators will they have a better understanding of what Diego Pavia has to offer, and they have a better understanding of how they want to attack him and what they want to force him to do. They want to force him into his weaknesses, which, coming off of last season, I get it. His weaknesses were down the field accuracy and pocket presence. He was erratic in the pocket, antsy in the pocket, and oftentimes panicked. And then obviously his downfield accuracy wasn't quite as good. He was banged up. He didn't have that part of his game, so he couldn't really take advantage of, being hurt. Once you took away his ability to do what he does, it was over. And I get it, and that's probably why people are saying that. Well, defense coordinator is just going to do that, but he's going to be healthy, and he's been working on it. Like he said, he's working on his pocket presence. He's working on things. He's going to be better. This offense is going to be more advanced. All of those things are going to be true, but who's going to be on the other end of those passes when he gets there and he moves, he steps up in the pocket, he finds a throwing lane, and he rips the ball? Who's going to be on the other end of that? That's the part where I think these portal guys are going to be the ones that step up. I just don't know about the freshmen coming in. Like, I don't think you can rely on those freshmen. They can be rotational guys. I don't know about last year's freshmen. They were kind of erratic. Maybe they step up too. I don't necessarily consider them newcomers, but honestly, I think your best production from the wide receiver position is going to come from your transfers. And I talked about Martell Height. I guess you could consider him a transfer, because he's transferring from the defensive side of the ball part-time. So I'll kind of consider him. I'll kind of count him, but I'm not going to talk about his impact because I've already done that. And I'll probably do it more, but not in this particular episode. But I think the biggest impact for that position is going to be the trio of Trent Hudson, Chance Fitzgerald, and Trey Richardson. All right. And I think Trent Hudson, because he has a rapport with Diego Pavia. So I think there's something to that. And then Trey Richardson I think is the ultimate slot utility guy. I think you're going to have some gadget guys, and Trey Richardson. And I know what you're going to say about that. Well, he came from Division II. He's not going to be any good. And well, just because they come from Division II doesn't mean anything, right? There could be a million reasons why he was at. I don't even know what school he was at, to be honest with you. That doesn't help my argument. But I saw his film. He's extremely talented. I'm very excited about what Trey Richardson can do, because he's very shifty. He's very explosive. He can run the jet sweeps. He can do the screens. He can do the short stuff. I'm not sure about his down the field threat. Maybe he can attack the middle of the field. I think we have some guys on the outside that can take care of being those down the field vertical threats. But Trey Richardson, I think, is going to fill a very, very vital need in that in that week and get somebody to throw screens to and run jet sweeps and run short stuff and crossing patterns and things like that in order to really attack defenses and get them on their heels. And just because he's D2 doesn't mean he's going to be bad. Like, it was like, oh, yeah, NFL guys draft D2 guys. NFL guys draft D3 guys. Like, it doesn't matter where they're from. Like, Terrell Owens was an FCS guy. He was a freak, but he was an FCS player. Like, who would have thought? FCS player. I think he was drafted very low or undrafted by the 49ers. He exploded. Like, nobody thought he would do that, right? So it doesn't matter where the impact comes from. And then Trent Hudson, I about called him Trent Richardson. Trent Hudson coming in from Mississippi State by way of New Mexico State. I think that's important to note. He does have a little bit of a rapport with Diego Pavia. He does have a little bit of rapport with this coaching staff. They know what he can do. I think his impact will be very sudden. I think he's going to be a reliable target. I'm not sure necessarily about his vertical threat, but I think if you have a reliable guy that can make a catch on 3rd and 8 for a first down, or be able to rip some of this chunk yardage, I think you're going to be able to open up things for guys like Junior Sherrill who can threaten downfield, for Joseph McVay who can threaten downfield, for Tristan Brown who can threaten downfield. Like, I think you're going to open up opportunities for those guys, but it's going to come from being, Mr. Reliable with Trent Hudson, or, Mr. Reliable with tough yardage. Like, you need some, your 3rd and 3, and you need some garbage yardage and the box is packed, and you have a screen on the outside. He's going to have to be somebody that's going to have to break a tackle. Chance Fitzgerald, I think, is going to come in as a rotational guy and get some quality minutes. I'm not sure if he's going to be like the superstar receiver just yet that they need. He has a chance to prove that, pun intended. But I think ultimately Trent Hudson, with the experience that he has with this coaching staff, I think will get first go at it. But there couldn't be a more wide open position group than wide receiver. And I think these 3 transfer guys can really, really take advantage of that. So we defensively, I think there's some monster impact guys. And there's some guys who were transfers last year that didn't play that are like new-ish guys. So we're going to talk about those guys and the impact that they're going to make next. All right, wrapping the show here, Locked On Vandy. Thanks for making us your first listen. If you like what you've heard, or if you're a Bama fan or a South Carolina fan, you're like, what the hell is he talking about? At Locked On Vandy on social media, like, subscribe, all that stuff, man. And I think these guys are going to play a vital role in these upsets, because I think with last year's game plan, I think Vandy can keep Alabama, they can keep South Carolina off balance. I think they're going to be fresher against South Carolina. I think this game against Bama is going to be extremely competitive because Bama wants revenge. Vandy doesn't want to let them have it because Diego Pavia has those 2 games circled on his calendar. So I think that the vital role of the offensive line, providing protection for Pavia to be able to deliver the ball to the wide receivers who are going to make quality plays. I'm not sure that they're going to have a super vertical impact in these 2 games, but the impact is going to be move the chains, get the first downs, get the necessary yardage, find the holes in the defense, take advantage of them, figure out what Alabama can't defend very well and attack that. And you have guys that can do different things now, and mostly transfer portal guys, and you have a reliable guy in Trent Hudson that can be that reliable X receiver. So it's going to be interesting, and that's why I'm very, very high on an upset in one of those 2 matchups, or both. I don't know. That's why I'm very high on that. I think the offense is going to be more explosive because it's going to be better with more depth and more veteran experience. Maybe not necessarily experience together on this team, but they have experience in big situations. So I'm very excited to see what this group can do and how Diego Pavia can lead and evolve as a quarterback. And a lot of that is going to come from the help of transfers. That's the theme of this show, transfer portal guys. So let's talk defense, okay? Because it doesn't matter what you do on offense if you can't stop them. Yeah, well, okay. Yeah, it's not good. All right. But on defense, Keanu Koht, CJ Hurd, and Jordan Matthews, I think are going to be the three big guys transferring in that are going to make a huge, huge impact. Jordan Matthews at corner, big, fast, lengthy, can play the ball, has good point of attack skills, physical, played at Tennessee last year, coming over from the dark side. And I think he's going to play a vital role in spelling Martell Height. I think he's going to make it very easy for Martell Height to play a lot of offense because there's not going to be a ton of drop-off there with Jordan Matthews. And that's not a knock on Martell Height. That is actually a really good thing to be able to say because you got to get your best 11 on the field offensively, and Martell Height fits into that. Jordan Matthews is going to allow him to. All right, CJ Hurd coming in. Call him Predator because he looks like Predator. He hits like Predator. He's going to be that strong safety. He's going to be that other down low guy. Randon Fontenette was a key transfer portal guy from last year. Is going to have a major impact. I think CJ Hurd is going to be in really good support of Randon Fontenette. He's going to be that second and third level support for Randon Fontenette, who's going to be at the line of scrimmage a lot. And who's going to be getting pressure on the quarterback, who's going to be setting the edge on outside runs and playing short passing concepts, crossing routes, things like that. Is going to be a thorn in everybody's side. I think CJ Hurd is also going to be a thorn in everybody's side because I think he's got the speed to play downhill against the run, and he's got the speed to be able to do it from like a too high look. So I think he offers a lot of versatility there. Keanu Koht is somebody I'm very excited about on this defense because as good as we had it with Miles Capers and being able to get pressure on the quarterback, we just didn't have enough of that because Miles Capers was the only guy really. Nick Rinaldi kind of played a little bit of a role, but he's kind of like a back and forth guy. He's kind of a utility guy, and he'll contribute. He's not a transfer, but he'll contribut. But having Keanu Koht come in from Alabama, I think is a big, big important thing because Keanu Koht is somebody that will, he's going to be juiced up against Alabama. He's going to want to say, I think he's going to have a huge game at Alabama because he's going to want to show Kalen DeBoer, hey, this is what you're missing out on. And he's going to introduce himself to Ty Simpson. He's going to finally get to be able to hit Ty Simpson because he couldn't in practice. So I think he's going to get a chance to introduce himself. I think he's going to make a major, major impact. I think having him and Miles Capers is going to open up a lot of possibilities for Steve Gregory and Clark Lee. They're going to get really creative with those two guys. They're going to be packages where they're both in the game at the same time, maybe on the same side, playing some games there. There's just going to be a lot of possibilities that you're going to see. There's going to be a lot of creativity. I'm anticipating a lot of creativity. I can't speak for sure because I'm not in those meeting rooms, of course, but you're going to find that this defense, they return a lot of production. So they're not as littered with transfer portal guys as the offense is, but key roles, strong safety, edge rusher, field corner, like those are key positions that are going to make contributions. Your field corner is going to probably draw Isaiah Horton a lot, or probably draw Ryan Williams and Isaiah Horton a lot. And they're going to have to figure out how to manage that. And I think having a veteran guy, bigger physical guy that can run and communicate will help you there. You have more athletic safeties with CJ Hurd and Dante Carter. There's a battle going on with Dante Carter and Marlon Sewell. So I think whoever wins that one, there might be situations where they're both in the game at the same time. If you're playing against like an Alabama who has really good wide receivers. But I think for Alabama, as they're figuring out what they want to do, I still think, and I don't know, by that point, they may have it figured out. I don't know. By that point last year, they didn't have anything figured out. They thought they had it figured out because they beat Georgia, and Georgia kind of just gave the game to them. But I don't know. I don't know if they'll have it figured out. I don't know if, I don't know where Ty Simpson will be as far as is he going to come in and really light the world on fire? I think highly of Grubbs or Ryan Grubb, but I think I just don't know. There's some unknowns here with Alabama. The only thing I do know is Isaiah Horton and Ryan Williams are super talented, but the quarterback situation is not settled. I don't know if it's permanently settled with Ty Simpson. I don't know if they truly believe in Ty Simpson. I really don't. But I I think they're going to have to figure it out quickly, because by the time you get to Vanderbilt, I just don't know that Vanderbilt's a team that you can't, that you can come into that matchup not knowing what you are or what you want to be. That can be very disjointed, right? Because Milroe had a good game throwing against Georgia, and they thought that's what he was going to be, and he's not that. And I think they went that direction, and they turned down the wrong street, and they couldn't get back out. They still went 9-3, which is crazy. And they were upset about that, which is also crazy. But nonetheless, they had a little bit of an identity crisis. They probably lost. Well, they lost to Oklahoma because they went to the tank because they didn't know what they wanted to do. They lost to Vandy because they just didn't know what they wanted to do, and they were a bit shell-shocked. Vandy punched back, and they weren't ready for that. And I think they're going to be obviously ready for that now, but like Vandy can punch harder now. So Vandy can actually like stand in there with them this year versus last year. So it's not going to be as much of a surprise, because Vandy's got a better roster, and they can stand in there toe-to-toe. So I'm very excited about these matchups. I'm very excited about these transfer guys. And real quick, I'm going to go into overtime just a little bit. But last year's transfers who didn't play for various reasons, MK Young, Marlon Jones, and Mark Davis, I think are going to also have impacts at some point down the road. MK Young probably the biggest on offense, because he is kind of the home run hitter, and he's going to be a really good complement to Cedric Alexander, all while AJ Newberry's getting well and getting back in the swing of things. So that being said, thanks for listening. Thanks for participating. Thanks for everything that y'all do in this venture. But like I said, this team is I'm excited about this team. I'm really excited about this team. I'm genuinely excited about this team, and they're going to be fun to watch, and they're going to be fun to look at down in the future. So didn't get to Clark Lee's transformation. We'll get to that later on this week. But until next time, see you in the promised land. Goodbye.